Hello, and welcome to Waves of YA, a podcast focused on young adult literacy, brought to you by the Ocean County Library's Teen Literacy Work Group.
Hello, teens, and welcome to this episode of Waves of YA. Today we'll be talking about classics and the classics literature. I'm Casey, the teen librarian in Lakewood, and I have with me
Chris, the branch manager over at Island Heights.
And we are going to talk about all things classic books today. So to start us off strong, we should probably try to figure out what separates an old book from a classic.
So you sent that question when we were coming up with them, and my knee-jerk reaction was the ones you have to read in school. Look, I'm not wrong. We read classics in school, but part of it's more than that. It's books that you're expected to understand the references to. You're supposed to recognize, oh, this is Romeo and Juliet. It's a retelling of things. If someone makes a joke and is good going there, Nancy Drew, you're expected to understand these cultural touch points because they're so ingrained in our society. And that's what I think makes it more of a classic than just you read it in school, but you understand as being part of the culture what these books are about. Even if you've never read them, you understand references to them, the jokes, the nods to them.
Because I recognize my sister is reading this book called Swallowing Stones. And I don't know if you had to read that in school. It was fine, but that's not something that I would consider a classic. But
yeah, I've never heard of that one.
It was okay.
Because you also read non-classics in school. I read On My Honor, which I think is totally out of print, and
yeah, I have no idea what that is.
yeah, you read ones that you're I don't know if this is my teacher liked it, so we read it. But Shakespeare, stuff like that, they're more prevalent.
For class, they definitely have to have a cultural significance to them, like you said. But I guess maybe what will be and this will probably come up a lot today, the cultural significance of why we're discussing them. What made, for example, Pride and Prejudice so good that we're reading it and people are retelling it again and again and again. What made Dracula so awesome that it is just one of the classic monsters. I don't feel like there's a set in stone answer, but I feel like all these stories have a certain, to get really fancy on you kids, je ne sais quoi.
I was thinking that too. I was thinking because of Austin Powers, though.
So that's kind of what I think. All the classics seem to have a certain something about them that makes them special to us.
Yeah, and us as a society, not just us as an individual.
Absolutely.
But because they resonate. So the next one is, do you have a favorite classical author?
I have a few. Edgar Allan Poe. I love him. If you kids don't know him, fantastic horror short story writer. He does have one novel. I haven't actually read his novel, but I've read almost all of his short stories, and they're just wonderfully dark and gothic and amazing. And of course, Bram Stoker, who wrote probably my favorite novel of all time, Dracula. Well, my favorite horror novel of all time. My favorite novel, which is actually, I think, technically a classic, is The Hobbit. But
it's over 100 years old or close to 100 years old. That's a classic.
Yeah. So I guess Tolkien then. Tolkien is one of my favorite classic authors.
So I have a mix of favorite classic story novels and stories that I put different, because a lot of them are Bronte only wrote Jane Eyre, and I love Jane Eyre, but I'm she's not my favorite author. She wrote one book. Mm-hmm. So I love Nathaniel Hawthorne and Ray Bradbury, of that of Poe, because I am a spooky girly sometimes, but both of them wrote these stories that we talk about today, that you can see echoes of today, especially with Fahrenheit 451 and the book banning, the book challenges, mm-hmm. that have been increasing drastically year over year for the past several years now, where it's like, this book was published ages ago and like it's still relevant and we still see it today. And like the Martian Chronicles and like his stuff is just, I like his sci-fi.
Isn't it crazy that Fahrenheit 451 is on the banned book list?
I I had I had a fellow library school classmate that was like, I don't like it. It talks about banning books, and I'm like, the point, you've missed it. The point is it's bad.
Yeah.
And I love like one of the lines that I have like as a tattoo is the magic is only in what books say, of like it's important about the message, not how you consume it. And as an avid audiobook listener, I'm like, yeah, it's the message is important. It doesn't matter if you listen to it or if you read it, but like hearing it, reading it, understanding it, and getting the point and the meaning of the work of literature is what matters.
I'm trying to think. I also really, because that's right. There's some people I've read just like once. Like Bram Stoker is not my favorite author, but Dracula is probably my favorite classic work of all time. And Poe, I think I probably read the most of. If not Poe, definitely Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, who wrote Sherlock
Sherlock.
Holmes, and also Tolkien.
Yeah, once you said Poe, I was like, why did Poe not occur to me? I wrote papers on Poe like in high school and in college, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a classic author that I love, and I just am like, but he's so timely every Halloween.
I'm surprised you also didn't say The Outsiders.
That's where I'm like torn on, like, is it a classic book or is it an old book? And I feel like it needs like a couple more decades for me to be like, it's a classic, despite it being like 60 years old now.
I mean, that's another question. I mean, like, obviously we just stumbled on this and this isn't one of our things, but like, does it have to be old to be a classic? Because you could see like The Odyssey, a classic. But also there's definitely newer stuff. Like Stephen King's books are classics. But they've been written like in some people's lifetimes that are alive right now.
Yeah, and like, because there's a term that gets used like modern classic for like Stephen King, The Outsiders, like the stuff that's less than 100 years old. Where I'm like, we know they're going to be classics. Like we know like The Outsiders like has retellings. It's got references all over the place. The musical, the movie, so like wildly spread out. So like, yeah, I will admit that it is a classic and that it is from the 60s.
Yeah.
And you keep bullying more and more people into reading it, including like adults that are like, oh, I was around then. How did I not read this? I'm like, I don't know.
But do it. So, for our next question, what is a classic that you can read over and over again?
So obviously The Outsiders, because I've read that like 15 times. But Anne of Green Gables, just like, she's such a mess and it's so fun, and like every time you read it you're just like, Anne's great. Anne is doing the most all the time, and I just love how like dramatic she is, and it's like a quick comfort read too. And Dracula, because I read Dracula and it's like original format in college. And then a couple years ago, I did Dracula Daily, where you would get emails on the date of the correspondence with that chunk of the book, because it's all epistolary. So like getting to read it in a different, like in essentially the events in chronological order was fun. So I'm like, ooh, like getting to switch back and forth between like the different ways to read it. And like, I always forget, like despite knowing, I'm like, there's a cowboy just like in Dracula. You're like, right, there's a cowboy.
It's so funny how that lines up time-wise. Like, actually, there were cowboys when they were writing Dracula, and they're like, yeah, why not? We'll just throw it in. So obviously, I do read Dracula over and over again. I read it every year. Anything Tolkien's written, I'll read over and over again. But I have another book I don't know when people are going to be hearing this, but as we're writing it, the holiday season is approaching. And every year I reread A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens and The Nutcracker by E.T.A. Hoffman. I reread those. They're both incredibly fast reads, but I just really like them.
Ooh, I did because I've read Christmas Carol a couple times as well, but I also recently did that where you can sign up to get like a little chunk of an email to you every day through December leading up to Christmas.
Hmm.
So like it's like you're like in a little like book club with everybody else that's doing it, and you're just like, I'm gonna read like little snippets, even though you're like it's not that long.
That's so cute.
It was
It's
super cute.
also scary.
It's because we used to tell then we used to tell ghost stories for Christmas. It used to be spooky.
Yes. And now Spirit Halloween is Spirit Christmas, and they're trying to monopolize on our only spooky.
Apparently, there's a lot of Krampus stuff in the Spirit Christmas, and I'm like debating going and checking it out. And I'm like, I do not need to buy more Christmas decorations. I bought way too many.
Every year I say I'm going to go to the Asbury Park Krampus Festival. Kid, you can go to that too. It's for all ages. They have a guy you can take a picture with who's dressed up as Krampus, and there's also a Yeti, I think, that gets there. You could put your name on the naughty list and have someone scream it from the rooftops. There's like a Christmas market. I think there's a movie festival. It might just be for the New Jersey Devil Festival, which is completely different. But and there's like a marketplace where you can go and get Christmas goodies. And uh, I've always heard it's a fantastic time. Every time I've set myself to go, I have something. Like this year, spoiler alert, the Cartwheelers are going to be at a Christmas parade. If you guys don't know that, there's a group that takes carts to parades and does little tricks with them.
We're a
But
book card drill team, and both of us we were just at the meeting for this because Casey
yes,
is the head of the committee.
and Chris is going to get sick of me by the end of the day. But
No.
uh yeah, so I'll be doing that, and then the Krampus night is literally dead. And I was like, dang. But yeah,
You can drive to from LBI to Asbury. You got this.
I'll try.
Ooh, what was your first classic that you read?
My very first was Sherlock Holmes. I did not understand it very well, but the first one I read was in third grade. We read The Adventure of the Red-Headed League for class, and I guess it was probably like thumbed down and abridged for us. Like I don't think they had us reading full Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, but I loved it, and I got another book that was meant for kids with Sherlock Holmes stories that were abridged and made simpler. And then I just went and got the actual Sherlock Holmes, and there was like French in it, and I still don't speak French, so I had to like look it up, and I was just obsessed. I loved it. It was so good. And uh that kind of got me. When I was a kid, I was a little bit of a snob. I was like, I only want to read the classics because I can understand them. But I was a little my one claim to fame was Alair State Park. They put on uh a one-man play of Sherlock Holmes and the Adventure of the Speckled Band, which happens to be my favorite short story from Conan Doyle.
Is that the
And
one with the snake?
yes,
Yes, okay.
and
So I have not read them, but I am culturally aware of Sherlock story.
the guy, to make his life easier, changed it from two sisters to a brother and a sister, just so he didn't, I guess, so he didn't have to put on a dress. I don't know. But because most of it was just switching hats and
Fair.
voices. And he asked at the end of the play who, if anyone could guess what he changed. And I was like 10. I was in my little deerstalker cap with my mom, and I was the only one that raised my hand. And I guess he was going to humor me, but I got it right. And all the adults were really impressed with my mom and not me for some reason.
Mom gets credit. Uh,
What was
Sherlock
yours?
Holmes. Mine was The Hobbit, actually. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, a bunch of children's books that are all classics, but like The Hobbit, because I've been reading like a ton anyway, and I was like, one of those kids like, it's hard to give books to kids that are like above their reading level, where you're like, I can't give you this because you're not there content wise. So my dad's like, you're a huge nerd, and like you can handle reading The Hobbit when I was in like, I think I was 10. Fifth grade? Probably fifth grade. So it was like my Christmas present, and I was like, this is what I'm doing for the rest of Christmas break, and just like read The Hobbit. And it was before The Lord of the Rings had come out, so like loved The Hobbit. And then they were like, oh, we're making Lord of the Rings. My dad's like, this is the same guy. Went to see The Lord of the Rings, started reading Lord of the Rings, and I was like, one of these was designed to be like more for kids than the other. So it took me until like 4 years ago to finish reading The Lord of the Rings. I did reread the like first two because I was like, I don't remember, despite watching the movie like a million times.
Because The Hobbit was written originally because The Hobbit was a story that Tolkien would tell his kids,
Yeah,
you know, going to bed.
it
And
shows in the writing differences between those two.
yes,
It's like, I can follow this. Like, this is a fun adventure tale for kids. And then I was like, this is a lot of like political war things, and that's not fun for children.
he finally put it down because his son Christopher would be like, you said this time that they were wearing blue, but the first time you said it, they were wearing red. And he would catch him in these mistakes. And he just go, dang it, and like write it down officially. So like he had it official. And
I appreciate this.
another thing that I learned about this story, which as someone who writes would terrify me, Riddles in the Dark was a completely different chapter. And the publisher wanted something different. So he was like, okay, I'll just send you this, see if you like it. And then they went, great, we published the book. And he was like, what do you mean? I just wrote that on a whim. But
I love the riddles part. Like, I got so
so
into
good.
riddles for like years, and now like I get to use that skill with like kids of like I just ask them riddles sometimes, and they're like, Miss Curtis, the number of riddles I know about eggs is comical.
Are you a teen in 8th through 12th grade? Are you looking for a dress for your junior or senior prom? Or perhaps a spring formal or 8th grade dance? Then keep these dates in mind. This March, the Ocean County Library is returning with the annual prom dress giveaway. The prom dress giveaways allow you to take home the dress of your dreams for free. Simply come to one of our participating branches, find a dress, and take it home. The giveaways will be from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Toms River branch on Monday, March 9th and Tuesday, March 10th, the Little Lake Harbor branch on Tuesday, March 17th and Wednesday, March 18th, and finally, the Jackson branch on Wednesday, March 25th and Thursday, March 26th. This year, there will be a kickoff event at the Toms River branch on Saturday, March 7th from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. For more details, check out our website at theoceancountylibrary.org. Visit your local branch or call us at 732-349-6200. We look forward to seeing you then.
What draws you to classic lit?
So I'm currently catching all of the ones that I missed growing up, because I was given a 100 Epic Reads scratch off poster.
Ooh.
Which is super fun. And also because I watch Jeopardy every night and I am incredibly competitive, and I'm like, oh, all the holes of my knowledge are like showing real badly of like, I have approximate knowledge of this book. Like, I can give you the gist of it, but it's like, you need a specific character name. I'm like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to be good at Jeopardy, but also, like, because that's, well, a totally valid reason to be reading classic lit. Like, I really like the gothic romance, the melodrama. Like, I love, like, is a woman locked in an attic, and like, what is the commentary on society and how we treat women? And like, also, I just love like the slow burn romance where they're just like, I've talked to him at a ball 2 weeks ago and I am still thinking about him. And like the slower pace and like also all the detail. Like, I like details. I'm like, paint me a word picture, and like some of the, like, they're getting paid by the word, so like, we'll paint you as many word pictures as you want.
I also really enjoy the word pictures. That's one of my favorite parts of classical lit. And I also, it's really fun to see some of the basis, you know, of like where things come from. How you were talking about earlier, like there were some books that I read where I was like, oh hey, this TV show I watched as a kid did a parody of that. Like obviously simplified and made for kids, but like they made like a parody of that. And I really enjoy seeing that. And also you figure you have like Frankenstein is the like precursor to sci-fi. Like that was the first sci-fi story. And you have Dracula, which I don't think that's the one that started it. Frankenstein might have come out first actually, but just like seeing like the universal monsters when they were in print and then how they evolve over the years is just fascinating to me.
Yeah,
And
like there's so many retellings of Pride and Prejudice and like different formats where like they all have their own flavor and characteristic, but like they're still fantastic.
I thought of another classic author. This is not even the question that we're asked anymore, but it's okay. We have Lovecraft.
Right, yes. Which
I The reason I thought of him is because I like Lovecraft kids, if you don't know, awful person, fantastic writer.
yeah.
And there's been this since his stuff entered the actually not even since his stuff entered the public domain, because Lovecraft has always been insistent that people participate in his world. What like the guy who wrote Psycho, Robert Bloch, was writing in the Lovecraft world, and there are a bunch of different authors from his time period that like he gave his blessing to write in his world.
Wasn't
But
it Conan the Barbarian or He-Man? Like one of those two, the comics were set in the same world because the creator was friends with Lovecraft. So you'd see some of the same monsters back and forth.
I'll be
In one
honest,
of them's
I don't know. I haven't thought of He-Man since I was in second grade.
I think it's
But
probably Conan the Barbarian, but like I know it's one of those two and the two are very similar, so I'm like, it could be either.
gotcha. Um, no, I could totally see it. I just don't know. Uh, but something I really enjoy that's happening is in part from just retelling. People now are reclaiming his stories because the people that he had writing in it and himself are very white and racist and xenophobic and all these wonderful, horrible things. And uh the people who are reclaiming it are people who he himself would have not liked, but they had a fascination with these stories that they took it back for themselves and made it less of a harmful narrative. And I just think that's really powerful.
Yeah. Oh, there's and now I can't remember the name of it, but there was like a movie or was it a miniseries recently where it was a black writer
Lovecraft
redoing
Country.
love. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
I'm like, you'll know this.
Yes.
That got like a ton of rave reviews, and I was like, yes, do that. Like, take it.
Uh, so for our next question, I'm sure you know my answer for this, but I'm going to ask you yours. Do you have a favorite genre of classic lit?
Ooh, I really like the slow burn romance and the gothic romances. Like I said, like I love Jane Eyre and A Lady in an Attic. But also like the old dystopia, like Ray Bradbury, um, George Orwell. Oh, we should have talked about him sooner. I like, especially with like 1984, Animal Farm. I wrote like 3 different papers on Animal Farm at one point. Like when you change schools a couple times, they don't know you already wrote that paper. It's like, but it gets better every time. So like loved like the dystopian of like the commentary of like the society at that time and like how some of it still holds up today. Like we like refer to things as like Big Brother and Orwellian, like uh MTV's entire TV show. Big Brother is literally because of Big Brother in 1984, and they were like, yes, now let's make that happen so everyone else can watch it.
So before I answer this, I realized it isn't there and you haven't had an opportunity to do it. Who is your least favorite classic lit author?
As I mentioned, as someone that loves an adjective, I hate Hemingway. He is the worst. I again, because I am reading some things specifically so I can scratch them off my poster and so I can be good at like Jeopardy. So I remember reading like The Old Man and the Sea and being like, this is fine in high school. And like, several years have gone by since I read it in high school. And then I read A Sun Also Rises. Like, this is going to be about bullfighting. This is so cool. All the things about Hemingway is how manly he is. And I was like, you didn't talk about the bullfighting at all. Also, you didn't use a single adjective in this book. That is impressive. And I was just like, I'm like, it's a very short book and it's such a long read because I was like, everything's flat. It just all feels flat. And I was like, there's no dimension to anything of your writing, your characters. And I was just like, very disappointed because like, he was so cool. And I was like, I don't get that he liked bullfighting or that he knew anything about it from this book. So I like, the lack of adjectives and just the lack of depth to everything, including like scenery, characters, plot, is frustrating. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to bother reading like For Whom the Bell Tolls, which is like supposed to be about his own experiences. Because I'm like, I don't think I care or want to slog my way through this.
My least favorite is A Separate Piece by John Knowles.
The broken arm one?
Yeah,
they,
or
like,
it was his
okay.
leg.
Okay, I knew he fell out of a tree and broke something. I have not read it, but I got that Jeopardy question right.
Oh my god, it's so boring. It is so. I don't even. Here's the thing. I only remember 2 parts of this story, and that's awful because usually when I read stories, I can remember good chunks of it. I remember him breaking his leg and him dying. Spoiler alert. I'm not.
I kind of was vaguely. I remember the broken leg being the more like big deal part of it because it's kind of like, doesn't that kick off a lot of the book?
Yeah, he breaks his leg because the main character is an awful human being and is jealous of him and pushes him off the branch, so he breaks his leg and eventually like some of the bones stuff got into his blood and it killed him. He killed this kid. But awful character. I didn't like anyone but the character who died.
That it is on my list of like, it's on the poster, so I'll get there eventually.
I'm sorry for you when you do.
It can't be worse than Hemingway.
My answer for my favorite genre of classic lit, Chris, I bet you can't guess. Is horror. I know, right? It's so unlike me to choose horror as my favorite genre. But
you mentioned that it took you a while to get into horror despite writing.
It took me a long time to get into horror movies. I did read the books.
Okay, because I knew I was like, oh, like it had taken you a little bit longer. So always into the books though.
Yes. Oh no, I've always enjoyed the books. I first read Poe, I want to say 7th grade, something like that. So I was reading them pretty young. But yeah, the movies took me a little while longer because anxiety. But
and the gore is different in books.
Yes.
Versus like seeing it visually. Like and like Poe's more suspense of like, oh no, what's going to happen versus like, especially like we've in the horror podcast we talked about like my feelings about Saw of like I hate it. Like no, I don't want to see the grossness.
My thing is not so much the gross stuff. I don't really care about that. Mine was the anticipation before the jump scare. It just played with my anxiety insanely bad. So like I couldn't do it because I would just panic. And it was just a movie. But now I like go to haunted houses and I don't care about jump scares anymore, but for a while I couldn't do them. But so yeah, horror like Dracula, Frankenstein, Edgar Allan Poe. You can even argue there's some horrific things in Sherlock Holmes because of the murder and the what's it called, the Hound of Baskerville is kind of almost like a ghost-esque story. And then there's also stuff like I do enjoy other stuff. Like I love the Count of Monte Cristo, which is just a fun revenge story. I read that so fast, and it's such a long book, but I read it.
That's 1,000 pages.
It is, but I loved it.
It took me 6 months to read The Three Musketeers, so I have not circled back for that one yet. Because I was like, oh my, oh, I don't know. I just found every character insufferable. And like I'm like, I'm here for the descriptions. I'm like, I just don't like any of these characters. We'll come back after I forget how annoyed I was by like the Three Musketeers for that one.
I haven't done Three Musketeers, believe it or not, but Count of Monte Cristo, fantastic. I loved it. And I also enjoy books that are kind of adventurous, like Lord of the Rings, and Treasure Island I really enjoyed. I remember
Treasure Island is part of the reason I'm obsessed with pirates, and I love me some pirates. Like, if there's a pirate story, I'm reading it.
I had that book recommended to me at what's the name of that town in Virginia where they do all the colonial stuff? Williamsburg. I had it recommended to me at Williamsburg because they had like a night tour and there was a Blackbeard story from somewhere around there. And they were like, if you like that, read Treasure Island. And I did, and it was fantastic.
I loved like Muppets Treasure Island. So then I was like, I read like the kids version of it, and then like when I was an adult, read the adult version of it, and then like I'm currently rewatching Black Sails, which is the retelling prequel of Treasure Island, and I'm like, and I read like the prequel ones that other people have written, and I'm like, I love this. Also Treasure Planet when we were kids. It's like, yes. Because sometimes you just want like a fun pirate adventure.
Exactly. Oh, this reminds me. We were talking about influence of like of that on classics on our culture. Starbucks is named after Starbuck from Moby Dick.
Huh. I have not read Moby Dick. I started it like twice, but I was definitely like a little too young for it.
It's absolutely
because I was on my pirate adventure. Yeah. I was like, fun pirate adventure, and then I was like, yes, more books about the sea, and then I was like, one of these was abridged and this one's not, because I got it at a yard sale, and I was like, this is too long. And
I have one more classic that I really disliked before we go on to our last question. This is going to be surprising for you. Jaws by Peter Benchley.
It's a New Jersey story.
I know. But everyone in his book is so unlikable. It just makes me angry. Like they're like, I love the actual story because the Jaws is based off the 1917 shark attacks that happened in New Jersey. But Jaws the book is filled with very mean characters.
They're all terrible.
Hooper does some questionable things with Brody's wife. A bunch of people die. The ending is so anticlimactic because instead of the smile scene, I can't complete the rest of that at work, but that part is not in there. It just kind of dies.
Which makes sense. That's the difference between like movies and books. I read it because I grew up knowing, because my dad really liked Jaws the movie and the book, so like it was always on the shelf, and we would watch every Jaws movie. They're not good after the first one, but like, so I grew up being told like they can swim up the rivers. That happened in New Jersey, so it was like a fun like bonus, like, ooh, what if I get attacked by a shark in this river? They were not going to be in like Kettle Creek, Kettle Creek, the creeks by us, but like they could be. So like I read it and I was like, this is so fun, but it also had that like attachment to like my dad loving the movie, growing up with like casually being like, you know, jokingly threatened with like being attacked by a shark in like small rivers.
Fun fact, Peter Benchley read the final script of Jaws and was like, hey, Steven Spielberg, if you were to shoot like a canister of oxygen like that, it wouldn't blow up like that. That wouldn't happen. And Steven Spielberg was like, we are not ending it the way you ended it in your book. Let me have this.
Fair. And like Mythbusters then did an episode about that's not possible.
Yeah.
But like it's fun.
It's
also
so
like
fun.
And then I remember the movie more obviously because I watched the movie like a billion times growing up, of like the suspense, because you don't see the shark because they couldn't get the animatronic to work for half the filming. So you just hear that music and you just know it's coming, of like, it's somewhere. We don't know where, and we're not going to see it because the animatronic's not working. But like that kind of played better for it.
Yes.
Because that like unknown like built more suspense and tension because we know it's coming, but we don't know when.
Oh,
The book,
cool.
you got like the shark's perspective in it too, though, which was fun.
From the shark's perspective, he was just no, yes, you got shots from the shark's perspective, but from the shark's perspective, he was just having lunch and then someone blew him up.
Yeah, like, but you would just get like random narration of like the shark just swimming about like not being able to sleep, otherwise they'll die, and then like, and I don't remember like much of it, but I just remember being like, huh, we're gonna get to hear from the shark, and like finding that interesting.
No one in the podcast will be able to see this at all, but can you tell that I like?
I was looking at it before. You, Casey behind her has a shark and the Jaws banner.
But our volunteers made that one year, and I stole it before it got thrown out.
That is all the decorations and offices. You're just like, we made this for a program, and I thought it was cool, so I kept it.
Yep.
So our last one is, why do we still read these stories today? And we kind of touched on it a bit, but we can talk into it more.
Yeah, like we were saying before, they have this certain quality to them that they're all very relatable, even today, like they're relatable. Like I saw this funny post where it was like, for Pride and Prejudice, who doesn't like to just eat and go visit each other's houses and to gossip? Like, who doesn't like that? It's so fun. Like, or for let me think, like Dracula, they have, it's like an epistolary format, and obviously we're not sending letters to each other every now and again, but there we have like epistolary style novels now that are like text messages or emails or journal entries or whatever, excuse me, whatever like compares, and it's just, it's good to see where the sausage is made, I guess.
The I want to say 2014, because I was working at Barnes and Nobles at the time. There was a trend where they were celebrating some anniversary of Shakespeare's, where they had re-released Shakespeare classics as text message conversations instead. And they were hysterical because there were like emojis and stuff in them. So like seeing how someone would retell Dracula today with all the different formats of like, because like we all have that friend where you have conversations with them in person, in emails, in like, I'm sending you this funny meme on Instagram, but I'm also texting you about like your dog on like a normal texting platform, and like having multiple conversations like happening that way, and then like the different group chats.
Absolutely.
Like seeing someone, I don't want to do it. I'm not a writer. But someone else should rewrite Dracula in like modern day formatting of like communications and publish it so that way I can read it.
Oh, that's so fun. That would be so fun.
Casey, you're right. You should do this.
Oh, maybe. Why do you think we still read these stories, Chris?
They're like, the themes always apply today. Like, and like I'm reading them because I want to be good at Jeopardy, but also because knowing where our modern stories came from and seeing how they change and evolve, like I mentioned, like someone do modern day Dracula, but like the retellings of like, well, what was important back then, and like sometimes you're like, this core value is the same, but like the number of retellings of Anne of Green Gables, or Little Women, that are queer retellings of like, hey, this was written back then, and like a lot of the times interpretation of Joe modern day, you're like, Joe was queer, and she couldn't say it, like Louisa May Alcott could not say that back then. Had to change the ending so like Joe, like they were like, you have to have Joe get married, and I was like, oh, don't do this to Joe. But like seeing like the representation and how it was handled back then, also seeing like people take what they identified with then of like these timeless themes of like not fitting in, or like revenge for Monte Cristo, of like no one is going to go running around murdering a bunch of people after with elaborate plots in modern day, but like that feeling of like I want a revenge. And there's always like fun high school revenge stories like Mean Girls and stuff of like, well, yeah, we were doing that back then too.
You also made me think of being able to say the quiet part out loud. Or like you think of authors like Oscar Wilde, who like there's very clearly some queer references and stuff in it, but like he was put in prison for that. And Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu, I can't believe I haven't mentioned that yet, is very obviously two girls in love, but
Yes.
they can't say that, so it's just kind of like, man, they're kind of obsessed with each other. I don't know. Read in between the lines. They were
And
roommates.
there's been 2 retellings within the past couple years of Carmilla where they're like, yeah, they're in love. And they just flat out say it. And I'm like, this is awesome. Because I read Carmilla back to back with one of them, and then Hungerstone I read for Halloween this year, and I was like, great. This is so good. Where I'm like, yes, take what like these little like things that were like left for the future of like how society is handling things back then, how it's being treated. Like I took a class on Victorian sensational fiction in college, and I absolutely loved it. It was all about women being subversive and like people defying roles of society, and like they were cautionary tales of like the fallen woman. But there was always like a character that was like, well, this is how you subvert expectations correctly and get away with it. Of like, well, you're doing too much, like you can't be running around like that. But if you do this and you play the game right, you can live the life that you want while like meeting societal requirements and expectations of who you are or your standing, or how to get above your standing like in society.
Yeah. I think that's it.
I think so.
Well, Chris, this has been a wonderful conversation, and teens, thank you for listening to our podcast about all things classic literature.
And check
Yes.
and check some of them out and like read the retellings. Like I've never read the original Peter Pan, but man, have I read like 10 different retellings of it.
Oh yes. Oh, I need to actually read the real Peter Pan. But yeah,
Two-person book club.
yes, read books. Talk better than me, and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. Be sure to check out the Ocean County Library's website for more podcasts and events. All titles mentioned in today's episode can be found through the Ocean County Library, free with your library card. Until next time, happy reading.